Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For the first, let me introduce myself. My name is Hafidzul Qiram. My ID number is 19, 10, 93, 10, and 38. Okay. Now we will talk about UML diagram. But the first, we must know what is the UML diagram. UML or Unified Modeling Language is a method in visual modeling that is used as a means of designing object-oriented system. UML can also be defined as a standard language for visualization, design, and system documentation, or also known as a standard language for writing blueprint for software. UML is expected to be able to facilitate software development or RPL and fulfill all user needs effectively, completely, and accurately. Now we must know about types of UML diagrams. For the first, we have use case diagram. Second, we have activity diagram, and the third, class diagram. For the fourth, sequence diagram, and the fifth is deployment diagram. Now the first, use case diagram. Use case diagram is the type of UML diagram that describes the interaction relationship between the system and actor. Use case can describe the type of interaction between the user of the system and the system. Use case is easy to learn. The initial step for modeling is the need for a diagram that can describe the action of actor with action in the system itself, as found in the use case. In this case study, there are three actors, namely admin, customer, and executive, who perform 7 activities. Among them, the customer login and the select project data. Then the customer make a payment. Then the order data is accessed by the executive. Now, activity diagram. An activity diagram is a diagram that can model various processes that occur in the system. The activity diagram is one example of UML diagram in the development of use case. At this stage, an activity diagram is made which is useful for showing or describe the system response when the author performs an activity or activity. Similar to the use case description, there are 7 activity diagrams in this case study. In first picture, it can be seen that the customer sign up. The first thing the customer does is select the sign up menu, then the sign up display will appear. Then the customer fill in the sign up data, whose data will be checked by the system. If the data entered is correct, the customer will be directed to the next page. But if the data entered is incorrect, the customer will be directed to re-enter the sign-up data until it is correct. The same thing happens in other activity diagram. Next, a class diagram. A class diagram is a diagram that is used to display class in the form of package to meet one of the needs of the package that will be used later. However, in the class diagram, the model design is divided into two parts. The first class diagram is described of the domain model, which is an abstraction from the database. The second class diagram is part of the MVC pattern or model view controller program model, where there is a class boundary as a class interface, a control class where the algorithm is found, and entity class as a table in the database and query program. In this case study, namely at PT Adicita Sakti has 3 class division. In this case, namely admin, customer, and executive, where each class explains in more detail the attribute and interaction that occur. Among them, admin login allows customer access, allow executive to access data center, and edit report. Then the customer register, logs in, order the project, and makes a payment. Finally, executive log in to access the data center, inspect the data center, and edit report. Now, we will talk about sequence diagram. A sequence diagram is a diagram that describes the interaction of objects based on the order of time. A sequence can describe the sequence of steps that must be done to be able to produce something as stated in the use case diagram. In this case study, a sequence diagram is made based on the process or activity carried out by the actor, where there are 6 activities, namely the login activity of 3 admin actor, customer, and executive. Then the customer places an order for a project to make a payment. Then the executive activity in viewing data center for all activity at PT Adi Citra Sakti. In first picture, it can be seen that the sequence of activity carried out by the customer when signing up is the same as in the activity diagram. The same is true for other sequence diagram. Okay, the last we talk about deployment diagram. A deployment diagram is a diagram that shows the physical layout of the system, showing the software part that run on the hardware part used to implement a system and the connection between the hardware components. In the case study that we raise, namely PTA Digital Sakti consists of a web server, where on the web server there are three pieces, namely admin, executive, and customer. In the admin section, there is an admin database that contains login, data access permission, and edit data. Then in the executive section, there is a database, then there is login, access to data center, and edit report. Then finally, on the customer, there is sign up, login, project order, and payment. Okay, thank you for your attention. See you next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.